friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts.
I think it's a really delicate balance of listening and not inserting my own story, yet offering enough of myself and my own story to encourage someone else to share the same.
Yeah. We're officially in hot chocolate season. Today's the first day of December, and I'm loving all the Christmas music, the beautiful lights. And did I mention hot chocolate? I hope you guys are enjoying this season and just all the joy that comes with it. And I am super excited for all that's to come on the show this month. Today's episode 26, and my conversation today with Meggie Belisle begins our Family Christmas series of episodes. Each week leading up to Christmas, I'll be sharing conversations with members of my family to celebrate their stories and this beautiful season. Meggie and I are basically related, although I'll let you listen to the episode and find out all the details. We first met while studying dance at Belhaven University, and I'm so thankful for her friendship over the years. Meggie is a professional dancer, choreographer, and founder of the company Meggie Dance. Meggie shares her journey dancing with a variety of companies in Texas, New York, and New Jersey, including Ingredients Dance Company, Roxey Ballet, Deum Dance Company, Open Sky Arts Collective, and more. We chat about the value of community, the challenge and the beauty of taking a fresh look at our beliefs, and how to have better conversations. We talk about Meggie's journey founding Meggie Dance to promote the art of listening through the creative art of dance. Inspired by her mom's cancer journey, Meggie's hope is to help bring healing to the hurting through the beauty of movement. Meggie Dance shares stories that inspire, honor, and bring healing to all involved. I love how Meggie expresses, your story is unique and needs to be heard. Enjoy my conversation with Meggie Belisle. Awesome. Well, I guess we can jump in.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because we're like already talking, so it's a little awkward.
It's funny because I'm always the one doing the interviews.
Oh, yeah.
With Mako stuff. I've never been the one on this side of things. So
true.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, I'm super excited to get to chat with you. And just for people that are listening, I'm with my friend Meggie / sort of sister. Well, sister in Christ, but also sort of actually related-ish. Not exactly. Through marriage.
Sister-in-law.
Once removed or something.
Yes, something like that.
If that exists. Yeah. So my sister-in-law is married to Meggie's brother. So that's super fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to word it. But yeah, basically we're related, so it's great. Yes. So fun.
My brother and Rachel married into the same family.
There we go. That's a great way to explain it. Yay. So it's super fun. I was thinking back to we met at Belhaven and kind of through the years and getting to just continue that friendship. And then now we get to see each other at family birthday parties and holidays once in a while. So definitely grateful for your friendship and getting to catch up with you today.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So do you want to just share with whoever's listening just a little bit about yourself and then we can kind of jump into more about your story?
Sure. Well, I live in College Station, Texas, and I grew up here and moved away for a good 10 years, dancing and studying and such. And then just moved back about a year ago and had my first baby.
Yay! And she's Zuli. The cutest.
She is literally the cutest baby that ever was. And she's 9 months now. Yeah, so that's where we are in life. And it's been really fun to watch Zuli and see her grow.
Yeah, for sure. We were just talking about before we started recording how being in quarantine with a baby is super fun because it's something to keep you occupied.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, love to hear kind of your beginnings in dance and what got you started in the first place.
Well, I started dancing when I was 4.
Okay,
and
cool.
started at Suzanne School of Dance, just doing like ballet, tap, and jazz, the combo.
Oh, yeah.
And um, I loved it. I think my parents put me in dance because I never stopped moving. I would like eat on the go. They'd like give me a bite and then let me dance around the kitchen. And
Nice.
so I just was always a mover and trained at a serious ballet school for a couple of years, like in middle school. But most of my before high school training was all at Suzanne School of Dance. So
Okay.
a very free, worshipful, encouraging environment. So it was a great start.
Yeah, for sure. And then they have a company there, right?
Mm-hmm. I danced with like the studio company in high school called Company Abundance, and then graduated from high school and joined Ingredients training program in Dallas, which is a part of Dance Revolution. And I
Gotcha.
was a trainee for 1 year and then joined the company for another year. And then from there, went to Belhaven, met the
Whoop, whoop.
beautiful Rachel,
Ah.
and finished my degree. I'd been doing college on the side with Ingredients and then
Okay, gotcha.
spent 3 years at Belhaven finishing that. And then after graduation, I moved to New York for the summer and worked for Joffrey Ballet, and then danced in New Jersey for a year with a ballet company called Roxey Ballet. And it
Mm-hmm.
is still a wonder to me that they paid me to put point shoes on, but they did.
That is pretty amazing. Well, at least no, I think you're awesome and that's so great. But I'm thinking about
No, it
myself.
is.
I'm kind of putting my foot in my mouth. But yes, thinking about myself I don't know. It's just
No,
a lot on point.
it's amazing that they paid me. I mean, anyone who knew me college or before knew that I hated ballet and I was not very good at it either. So something happened my last year at Belhaven and I just fell in love with ballet and ended up in a ballet company. So
That is so
anyways,
cool.
from there, only spent 1 year there and then went back to New York, freelanced for like 3 years. And that's when Matt and I got married around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then took a break from all the dancing and spent 3 months in New Zealand, which was awesome.
That is so cool.
Backpacking. And then went back to Texas, danced with Deum for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then got pregnant, danced with Open Sky for half a season. Did my last performance when I was 36 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And then since then, we've just been doing a lot with my company, Mako. So yeah, that's kind of the journey.
The overview. Yeah, that's
nutshell.
awesome. So it'll be fun to dive in more to some of those areas and then also Mako and kind of hear more about the heart behind that.
Yeah.
And yeah, but kind of going back to maybe we'll start with ingredients. So back when you first kind of ventured outside of kind of your studio growing up, and what was the experience like going to Dallas and training and then being part of ingredients?
It was super fun. I loved my time at Ingredients. I was 18, 19, 20 when I was there. So they were very formative years. And I don't know what Ingredients is like these days, but when I was there, there were a lot of requirements, a lot of scripture reading and exams and
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that.
book reports and papers. It was not just the dancing, which was great. I really enjoyed all of that. But the dancing was amazing. Very contemporary. We actually did a lot of hip hop when I was there, which was really fun because I love hip hop, but never did much of it in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really loved Ingredients. I feel like it was, just a very worshipful environment.
Mm-hmm. And y'all did, so y'all would travel to the different like Dance Revolution conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And then did y'all do anything outside of that, or was it pretty much just tied with the conventions?
No, we did a lot. We were kind of always on the go, which suited my personality perfectly.
Yeah, for sure.
We traveled with the conventions, which was super fun. We literally never slept like the whole weekend. I remember my first convention I was so tired. I hardly slept the night before we left, like packing and stuff. And then we got there and we had a rehearsal until I think literally like 2 in the morning. We
Wow.
were rehearsing because we'd get there around like, I don't know, 5 p.m. or something. We'd fly there in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
get there, set everything up. Then we'd have the big welcome and hundreds of students come in and then there's like a party and the party ends and then like around 9 and that's when we start rehearsal. So
Wow.
for like the huge production, which is the whole cast that has not seen each other for months, and we have like this entire production to put together. So it was always really intense. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we were rehearsing from like 9 to 2 a.m. or whatever, and having been up since like 4 a.m. on our flight. And I took a shower, and I'm like putting face cream on in the mirror, and I fell asleep
Oh
standing up, putting lotion on my face.
no.
And I opened my eyes and I was terrified because I saw this person standing in front of me and I didn't realize it was my own reflection.
That's
But
awesome.
so a lot of my time at Ingredients was just being so exhausted, but so happy.
Uh-huh.
So then we'd wake up at 6 a.m. and perform.
Wow.
So outside of conventions, we did a lot with Gateway Church in
Okay.
Dallas.
Yeah.
And that was always really fun because they're a huge church with a lot of resources. And so every production we did with them was just really fun. Like smoke everywhere and lights and
Mm-hmm.
awesome costumes and hair and makeup and just very much like the production.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always I think I kind of have always judged big churches until getting to work with Gateway and getting to see the people behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to see that their hearts were so for salvation. And
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of rehearsal and in the midst of hair and makeup, there was so much depth. And the production team would just stop to pray and pray that the Lord would really make a difference through what we were doing. And I remember one Christmas show, our makeup artist, I think there were 7 of us, and we were demons. We were all portraying demons.
Okay.
And she had really prayed before doing our makeup, like, and just asked the Lord how she should do it, which I thought was really interesting. I'd never thought about praying about makeup, but
Right.
she did.
That's
And she came
cool.
in there with this like amazing vision. And she said she felt like we should all portray the 7 deadly sins. And so she did all of our makeup accordingly.
Mm.
And I just remember the makeup she gave me was like unforgiveness or something.
Hmm.
And it really resonated with some stuff that the Lord was doing in my heart. And I
Wow.
remember some of the other dancers saying the same thing. And so it was just cool. Like the Lord can work through makeup. That's
Yeah,
so
that's
awesome.
incredible. So then how did you hear about Belhaven and kind of end up going there to finish your degree?
I think that one of my friends that I grew up dancing with, she went to Belhaven. So I had kind of heard about it through her. And honestly, I did not want to go there. It was like the bottom of my
Yeah.
list. I don't even know why I applied, but I did.
Right.
But I was convinced that I was going to go back to A&M after my 2 years with
Mm-hmm.
Ingredients and finish up my degree there. My whole family is Aggies and I love College Station
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know. I just thought I would be at A&M. And I kept praying about it and the Lord, I remember, brought to mind the colors green and yellow. And I was like, what could that possibly
Interesting.
mean? And I remember that night after praying with someone about Belhaven, about like my next step, that was the impression I got. And I went back home and looked online and was like, oh man, those are Belhaven's colors. Dang it.
That's so funny.
And so anyways, I continued to pursue A&M instead and worked all summer to try to get things to work. And it was just very complicated. It was like jumping through a ton of hoops to get my college credits to work out. And at the last minute, like 2 weeks before Belhaven started, classes, I was in a meeting at A&M with an advisor, and I just felt the Holy Spirit say, "You're going to Belhaven." And I was like, fine. So I went and I loved it and it was great.
Yeah. Belhaven was awesome. But yeah, it's so funny how like we don't always, I don't know, want to go in a certain direction. And then God's like, no, here we go. This is the way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So many fun memories from our time there. And I know one of the things that was super special for me was having you in my senior project.
Yeah.
That was a really cool time. And I think that, I mean, obviously we were close before that, but I feel like that was like a bonding experience for all of us. Like getting really close through it.
Sweet time.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for being part of my senior project.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. So what were some highlights of your, highlights or like challenges from Belhaven?
Man, I think I really, really appreciated the quality of training that we got at Belhaven. Like I said, I was not a ballet dancer and I hated ballet with a passion. And then I got to Belhaven and that didn't change at first, but over the years, I really developed an appreciation and even a love for it towards the end of my time there. So I would say that was definitely a highlight, was just the caliber of training that I received and the friendships. I mean, talking with you today and so many people that I met through Belhaven are still friends. Yeah. And I met Matt. I met my husband through a Belhaven friend.
That's right.
In a roundabout way, but still.
Yeah, for sure.
A plus.
Definitely.
I sprained my ankle pretty bad my first year there. And that was tough because I didn't know very many people at the time. And it was a very, very difficult rehearsal process that led to spraining my ankle. So
yeah,
that was probably one of the harder times.
Yeah, for sure.
But overall, it was amazing. I really loved being there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a special time for sure. And that's true. Yeah, you never know who God will use and like connect you up with people and getting to meet Matt. So that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. So then you would move to New York.
New Jersey first.
New Jersey, that's right, for the ballet company. That's awesome. And that was more, were they like contemporary ballet?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, we even did like some jazz. It was kind of all over the board.
Gotcha. That's kind of it's a big step, it seems. Well, I don't know. Big step is kind of a weird word, but because you had already moved off like on your own to a new place, not really knowing anyone, but to move to New Jersey and be in a place where it's like, I guess up to then you'd kind of been in like Christian dance environment, more ministry based, or at least in sort of that community. So what was it like for you kind of stepping out into a totally new place and not in necessarily that Christian community environment?
That was really hard for me, and I didn't expect that at all. I don't think I realized how much I relied on that community until it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think it was especially hard too because I had a bunch of people around me who said that they were believers, but it wasn't really a daily part of a lot of people's lives. And so I think that also contributed because I was like, oh, I'm still in this like environment with people who are very like-minded and it's going to just be the same, like dance and believers and point shoes, but here we go. And then it wasn't. And so it was hard. And where I was living with a family that blatantly questioned all of my beliefs as well. And I remember coming home one night from a home group that I had attended. And right when I walked in the door, one of the people in the house was like, "Do you really believe all that stuff?" And I feel like it was like that a lot. Just like my beliefs were questioned on a daily basis or challenged on a daily basis. And so it led me to a pretty dark season of my faith where I really questioned if God existed and then finally realized that he did. And so I just ended up mad at him for a while.
Yeah.
And It was a really, really hard time, but I think it was really good for my faith to, just make it my own. I think everyone has to go through that at some point in their life
Mm-hmm.
in some extreme or minimal way, depending on the personality. But I'm pretty, I'm a pretty extreme person, so I think my my experiences tend to reflect that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really true too, that for everybody, we kind of have to hit that point of like, is this really real? Is this really what I believe?
Hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm sure there's people listening that are in that season or maybe are going to walk through that season. So, what are some things that you found maybe helped you through that? Or would you have any recommendations for people if they're in that place of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, intense reevaluation, maybe? I'm not sure what word to
Hmm.
use. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I had an amazing friend in like her 60s at that time, and I don't know what I would have done without her. So I pray that anyone going through that season has a friend like mine. Her name's Jonna,
Mm-hmm.
but she is one of the coolest people I've ever met. She is an amazing woman of God and so much faith, but she cusses, she smokes, she drinks. She's like definitely on the rougher side of things, but
Uh-huh.
loves Jesus more than most people I've met.
Uh-huh.
So I just spent a lot of time with her, and it was amazing to just be around someone who is completely judgment free
Mm-hmm.
while I was not wanting to follow the Lord or any of his ways. And she always told me, if you just want to, God can handle anything you throw at him. She's like, if you need to just say whatever you need to say, he can handle some cuss words.
Yeah.
It's fine. And she was like, and he can handle your questioning and he can handle your doubting. And so just having someone in my life to encourage that
Mm-hmm.
and encourage me to not try to hide from God, but just be really raw with him and
Yeah.
where I was at. And the one piece of advice she gave me that I like to offer others is to not stop going to church. And church drove me crazy at the time, and it still does in a lot of ways. I
Mm-hmm.
can't stand fluffy messages. It's really hard for me to even hear testimonies these days because I feel like we just focus on the end of a journey. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have kids and then I had one, or I struggled
Yeah.
with drugs, but now I'm clean. And I just wish that we heard more like, I still haven't had a kid.
Right.
I still struggle with drugs. I
Yeah.
still have cancer. The end. That's a testimony in and of itself. And so,
Mm-hmm. And the fact that God is with us in those things.
yes,
Yeah.
he's still with us, and we don't have to present a glorious end goal. So, anyways,
That's
that's
so good.
my small soapbox on church. But at the time, that was keeping me from church. And that was a part of my anger and resentment towards God and church and people. And
Mm-hmm.
so she told me, no matter how you feel, even if you hate every minute of it, don't stop going to church. She was
Mm.
like, the enemy just wants to isolate you. And if you stop going and you take yourself out of that community entirely, he's won. And you can't let that happen. And so I listened to her, and I did. And I went to church, and I hated every minute of it for a very long time, but I kept going.
Yeah.
And I would vent to anyone who would listen afterwards. And I would sit
Nice.
there with a sour look on my face and my arms crossed during worship. But I sat there. And so I think that's probably the one best piece of advice I could offer
Yeah.
anyone else in that season. Just
Yeah.
keep going to church.
That's awesome. So good. So was that mostly during your time in New Jersey, or did it kind of translate into when you were in New York as well?
It was mostly just New Jersey. I think by the time I got to New York, I was coming out of that season.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord was
Gotcha.
still doing a lot in my heart, but we were moving forward.
Right. Yeah. Moving forward one day at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. And like, I love that picture of, yeah, I think we do often kind of think about testimonies as like the happy ending for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, and you're so right that in a lot of ways can be very discouraging for people, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
more, like you said, kind of create anger or resentment or bitterness. And
Mm-hmm.
even think about that with certain Christian like I don't know, movies or plays or whatever. And it's like, you kind of get to this like, yay, everything's perfect. And it's like, no, that's not really real life.
Yeah, it's not a Hallmark movie.
Exactly. As much as we love Hallmark movies. But it doesn't always work out.
Matt and I were watching a Hallmark last night, and I was like, one day they should make a Hallmark with a really sad ending. Just like
to
reality
shock everyone?
check people. Yes. Like the prince and the princess do not end up together.
What?
It's not a happily ever after.
No, I'm just kidding.
The dog never comes home.
Oh no. So tragic, but yeah, you're right. That would probably be good for all of us in like reality. Speaking of though, Hallmark Channel Christmas movies are fun this time of year.
I love them.
Yes, but it's fun, and it is kind of nice to have the predictable ending. But
oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, because you don't have to stress. You're like, okay, it's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be great.
Yes, but that's true. In life, I think it's really beautiful that the Lord is with us, like through those the hard moments, and even when He doesn't choose to heal people or to bring about whatever we want to happen, but like recognizing His goodness in the midst of it, and like even in the heartbreak or even in the pain, that He's got a purpose in it, and it's like way easier said than done, but like trusting that in the moment. Yeah. And I love that that's something I think that Mako does really well too. And so that's going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your experience before we get into that? Your experience like as a project-based dancer and kind of your time in New York, and even I guess somewhat in Houston when you came back and were dancing Open Sky and stuff like that.
New York was fun and challenging. I was, Matt and I were dating, and then we were engaged for the first year or so that I was in New York. And then we were married the rest of the time. So it was much easier to be married in New York. Just to have family to live with. New York was hard. But we had an amazing church. So that really changed our New York experience as well.
Yeah, I bet.
But I got to New York working for Joffrey, and that was really wild and a lot of fun. There were 4 RAs in the building that I lived in, and we were in charge of 80 students between the ages of 14 and 22.
Wow.
So it was a lot of responsibility and a lot of work. Man, I could probably spend hours telling you all of those stories, but
I bet. So that's one adult per 20 kids or 20 students?
Yeah, but the way it worked was we had an on-call cell phone, and whoever was on call had the cell phone, and they were in charge of all the students for 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then you'd switch and give the cell phone to your roommate, and they would be in charge for 12 hours. So, and then we had one head RA. So she was kind of we would call her if things got bad, but we were supposed to try to just handle it. Mice, people trying to break into the building, smoke alarms going off, doors not working, hospital runs with kids, all sorts of things.
Wow. Is there one story that stands out above all the rest?
And
I don't know if you know this. I went to Joffrey, their summer intensive, when I was either 15 or 16, 15 maybe. Okay. So I was probably one of those kids at one point.
Yes. The summer was very different too. We had summer kids, and that was a lot easier because, they're just there for a couple of weeks, and their parents pack enough food to last them for the entire year, and they're fine. But the kids who were there all year, these 14-year-olds who have never grocery shopped for themselves, and they're in New York City trying to grocery shop,
which is a whole nother experience.
Do their dishes, and
because that's at least from what I remember, it was it's smaller, little hole in the wall places that you're getting groceries and stuff. It's not like you can go to HEB on the corner,
right. Yeah. So. Yeah, Trader Joe's in New York is a whole different place. But I remember waking up one morning at 6 or 7 a.m. and the phone was going off, and it was right at the time where my roommate and I should be like switching the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like a gray area of whose responsibility it was when the phone rang. And so one call came in and someone's toilet wouldn't flush. And I was like, seriously, it is like 6 a.m. I do not want to come and unclog your toilet.
Right.
But I got out of bed and I was like, okay, fine, I'll go unclog a toilet. And then the phone went off right away again before I could get out of the room. And someone said that they had a mouse dead on their floor.
Oh, no.
So I was like, no, it is 6 a.m. I'm not unclogging toilets and scraping a mouse off the floor. Emily, get up. So I woke my roommate up and I was like, do you want the toilet or the mouse? And she was so mad at me. I feel bad now. I probably should have not done that to her, but she was a great sport. She helped me out.
Oh, that's good teamwork. Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yes. That's probably one of the more lighter-hearted stories.
That's great. Reminds me of one time, do you remember, it was Christy, but we were fellow RAs across the hall from each other in Caldwell Hall, which it works out now, Caldwell. But anyway, so we were like both on the same floor, but on opposite sides. And I think at one point we were like being there for each other to like get a cockroach because, it's just gross. And,
oh, yes.
But it was like, okay, I have like somebody has my back. And anyway, so we definitely tag teamed a lot. It's good to have a buddy.
It's nice to have that support.
Yes, for sure.
We were more like, okay, I've worked for 12 hours. Don't ask me for anything.
Yes, I could totally understand that. So funny. Oh, man. So, and then you got to work for a good number of companies in New York while you were there, right? Like dancing wise and doing experiences and stuff.
Yeah,
really cool.
None of them were very long term. It was more like a project here and there, but it was a lot of fun. I got to work with the Next Stage project, which was just through one of my teachers in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I danced with the Project Dance Company for one of the project dances.
Oh, cool.
Atmosphere. Did a little hip hop dance. That was fun.
Nice. Bringing back the hip hop.
Yes. I presented work and performed at different times in Awakening Movements showcases.
Yeah. Loved what they were doing. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're awesome. I love Hannah and Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And did some music videos with a friend.
That's fun.
And can't remember anything else that I did. Those are the ones that stick out.
That's fun. That's really cool. And just kind of like getting to experience different things. And that's awesome. Then like your next step was coming to Houston, right? With Deum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you kind of transitioned back into like company life. Right? So yeah. What for you was like pros and cons of like freelance versus company life?
I think when I finally got to Deum, I was just really happy to not have to audition anymore, which is ironic because I don't think anything I ever actually auditioned for ever worked out. Any dancing I did was like a friend or a teacher or
that's
some
so
other
interesting.
connection,
Yeah.
which I'm sure everyone has that story. Auditions really are kind of a waste of time.
More about who you
but
know.
I learned a lot. Yes. I learned a lot about auditioning or through auditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed not auditioning anymore. And just the community, the constant community that you get in a company setting is so sweet. Because you go through all the good and all the bad and all the ups and downs with the same group of people. And that's just really rewarding to stick it out. I think there's an excitement about freelancing and jumping from project to project and getting to do just a variety of different styles and performing in different places. But I definitely prefer the company life.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's really cool. It makes sense. I definitely love the community aspect of it and getting to, bond through, I've said this before on the show, but like bond through shared suffering and joys too. And like the good times as well. Want to take a brief pause from my conversation with Meggie and thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Creative Impact Podcast. Seriously, you listening on the other end is what makes this so special, and getting to hear from listeners brings so much joy. If you're enjoying the show, something that would mean so much to me is if you would do a quick rating and review on iTunes, which actually helps other people to find the show as well. Also, as you're doing your Christmas shopping this year, I want to invite you to check out the Root Collective. The Root Collective is a company that partners with artisans in Guatemala to create beautiful handcrafted shoes, bags, and more. They have super cute boots as well as flats. You can customize them to fit your style. The best part is that every purchase creates jobs for artisans who need them. Join me in making a difference through our shopping this Christmas season. To learn more about the story behind the Root Collective and to check out their products, you can go to creativeimpactpodcast.com/RC, which stands for Root Collective. Again, that's creativeimpactpodcast.com/RC. Now back to the second half of my conversation with Meggie. And I kind of skipped over it, I guess, because Mako got started while you were in New York, right?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
In 2015, we started it as the Belisle Dance Collective.
Oh,
was
really?
Our first name.
I didn't realize that. Cool.
We didn't have, it was before my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and we didn't really have a clear mission. It was just kind of, I really want to start a dance company and I don't really know what to do with it yet, but we had an opportunity to perform. So we're the Belisle Dance Collective.
Nice. Just made it happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then how did it shift into Mako?
My mom was diagnosed with cancer she started feeling a lump in her breast in end of 2015.
Okay.
And then was diagnosed with breast cancer early 2016. Had a mastectomy and a reconstructive surgery. So 2016 was really just pretty consumed with her battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how it came up, but we were in New York at the time, but because I had not landed any auditions in New York, I was able to be with my mom during her recovery, which was really sweet. And looking back, I remember at the time just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that I didn't get any of those auditions. And looking back, there's some that you look back on and you think, okay, I see why I didn't get that. I missed that whole entire 8 count, or couldn't get my leg as high as she could, or whatever. There was a clear reason. But then there's some you look back on and you're like, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I really, really thought I had that. But anyways, just really thankful I didn't land any auditions that year. So just through my time with my mom during her recovery and walking through that whole process with her, I just became really passionate about listening to people who have walked through difficult times, and especially cancer, because so often if you have a loved one going through cancer and you bring it up, the first thing someone's going to say to you is, oh yeah, my mom, my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, they had cancer. And then they want to share their story with you, which is great, but your story is really unique and needs to be heard. And I feel like people are way too quick to kind of hijack someone else sharing their story just to share their own. So that was just something that really stuck out to me during my mom's journey, is people would ask, how's your mom doing? And I would start saying a couple words and then they'd be like, oh yeah, it was the same for my mom, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I just felt like I never got to finish sharing and always wanted someone just to listen. And so for me, that was kind of a big reason Mako started. It was just to be a listening ear to people who are walking through a really hard journey. And I really don't know. My mom really kind of had a vision for it. I don't remember how any of those conversations came about, but we just started dreaming up these concerts where people got to share their stories through dance, and here we are.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And I really enjoyed, I got to come to, I think it was one of your first concerts that you put together.
Yeah, in Houston.
And where you, did the piece that was for your mom. and I think for your aunt as well.
Yeah.
That was so special. And it was really powerful hearing, like literally hearing some of their stories through recordings and things like that, but then also seeing it lived out through movement and through dance and that expression. So I think that's such a cool mission and purpose that is pretty unique. I mean, I think a lot of dancers and dance companies are doing like telling stories, but to have more of a more defined purpose, I guess, for sharing
Specific.
stories. Yeah. Yeah. Sharing stories, especially with cancer survivors or people that are walking through it currently and stuff like that. I think that's so powerful. What's some of the feedback that you've gotten through sharing people's stories and like getting to bring that to the world?
It's been so humbling. We got to work with this one man after he lost his wife.
Oh, wow.
And I think when we started working with him, it was a year since she had passed away. And that's literally one of the most humbling dance experiences I've ever had. To try to tell someone's life, death, and legacy through dance.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I was doing these interviews with this man and creating the format for the dance, and we were having rehearsals at this time. And I just remember, like, coming to the Lord and thinking, I can't do this. Like, I can't tell someone's life, death, and legacy in 5 minutes.
Right.
How does anyone do that? And it was a really sweet process. He told me at the end of it that I was like an angel in his life. Aww. And that it really helped him accept his wife's passing. And I think that is so beautiful, because we can't, she was gone by the time we met him, and there's nothing within my power that can bring her back, and there's nothing I can do to even help ease his pain, but to help him accept what had happened is huge.
That is huge. Yeah.
I think it just came through the interview process. We had some email correspondence and then multiple different phone calls, and I just asked the same questions over and over, honestly, just to get a better recording of some of the stories that he had told. And it was so cool to watch him go from sobbing through a specific story to shedding a few tears the next time he told it, to eventually laughing through telling the same story. And just to hear that healing happen was amazing. We also worked with, like you said, my aunt, telling her story. And she is a tough lady, like the kind of person who's like, I just remember hearing her story. She just always felt like, why am I important? Why am I any different than the next person? And I'm not going to let this get to me. And the big part of her story was, I don't have time for this.
I remember that.
And we even named the piece that. I don't have time for this. She just is on the go, busy, can't be weighed down by cancer. And she said when she watched her dance, it was the first time that she ever felt sorry for herself. And I thought that was a really interesting response. But I think it was really good for her because she's so strong, so tough, so brave. But I think it's good every once in a while to just let yourself grieve a little bit and let yourself be vulnerable. And I think that watching her dance gave that to her for a brief moment.
Yeah.
And we recently had a really cool opportunity to perform a dance called Pink Sunsets for a woman in Dallas. And she was diagnosed back in, I think, 2016. And we created this dance for her in 2018. And at the time, she had only been given 6 months to live. Wow. So when we performed this piece, she actually wasn't able to watch it the first time we performed it. And so we didn't know if we would ever be able to perform it for her. So she had just seen a video, but we performed it last weekend in Dallas, and she got to come sit front and center. And she just said that it really touched her and that she'll always remember it. And the piece is about her preparing her boys for a life without her. And so in reality, she's made these videos for her sons. And in preparation for when they graduate from high school, watch this video. And when they graduate from college, they'll watch
Wow.
this one. And when they get married or have a baby. And so she's really prepared very well. And so there's a solo representing her and then a duet with two boys. And it's all about her packing this suitcase and the boys unpacking it over time.
Wow. That just gave me chills.
It's a really, really sweet piece. And there's this moment at the beginning of the duet where the boys fight with some rain boots. And it's really comical. And we asked her after the piece was over if the boys represented her boys well. And she said, yes, so much so that one of her boys, the new thing that he does is he throws his shoes over the gate at their house. And so during the dance, one of our dancers threw the boot and it almost went over the gate where we were dancing.
That's awesome.
So it was just funny, even in small ways, to see
kind of the connection,
their lives perfect. Yeah. But I think it really impacted her. She didn't have a lot of words, but I got to sit next to her and she was just a little teary-eyed. So I think it meant a lot.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And it's pretty amazing. I think that just the power of story and the power of dance and art to help us process emotions and, like you were saying, and process grief and like walk through grief and not just try to avoid it, but like dive a little bit deeper. And yeah, I was curious, when you've had the opportunity to interview people and talk to them about their stories, do you have any advice for people for having better conversations, like deeper conversations, and figuring out ways to like really soak in and listen to people and not necessarily cut off and like jump into our own experiences, I guess, like you were saying?
I usually go into an interview. I try to go in with a couple of questions prepared, but sometimes I don't even have one because I really try to just listen and make it more of a conversation and just go off of what sounds important to them, what chokes someone up when they're talking and they sound like they're shedding a few tears or makes them laugh. I really try to go off of emotion is one big thing. And I also I've interviewed some kids and kids don't always know what to say. So I try to lead them to say some really some deeper things just by the questions I ask. Like I had interviewed the mom and I had asked her, I had heard her whole story, and she had this story about snow and how it snowed after her surgery one day, and that meant a lot to her. So I was talking to one of her kids, and I I asked him, do you remember when it snowed on the day of your mom's surgery? And he's like, oh yeah. And he starts explaining the day to me. And then I was like, so do you think you'll think of your mom every time you see snow now? He was like, I thought I had really asked a good question that was going to lead to this really sweet answer. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to think of my mom every time it snows. And he was like, I don't know, maybe. So I was like, oh, that didn't work. But I do try to lead people in. If I hear something that's important to them and feel like I can stage a question to help lead them to a deeper realization of what they've just said, I'll try to form my question appropriately. It's hard to do without a solid example in front of me. But
right. That makes sense though.
Yeah. Just listen to people.
Kind of honing in on like what seems valuable to them. And that's super good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So valuable. And especially these days, like I think it's easy for us to kind of, I don't know, be more self-focused, I guess. And like to really take the time to really focus on that other person. Super good.
Yeah. I think it's a really delicate balance of listening and not inserting my own story, yet offering enough of myself and my own story to encourage someone else to share the same.
Yeah.
And that's just a very, very fine line, because you talk to people who just make it all about them. And like I was saying earlier, you share and they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me. And you're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't really finish hearing what I was sharing. That's not even remotely similar.
Right.
And then you meet other people who just want to sit there and listen and don't give you any kind of like feedback. And I think both of those are
Mm-hmm.
hard to engage with. So our heart with Mako is really to listen, but I think you have to offer some vulnerability and some self
Yeah.
to allow that in someone else.
Right. Vulnerability leads to vulnerability. I've heard that before and I love that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I can't believe it's already like probably been over an hour. I don't know. That's okay. I love it. I just want to keep talking. Do you have any like things that you're currently like super passionate about or looking forward to as you move into the rest of 2020 and into the new year? I know this is like, I can't believe it's getting to the end of 2020. This is crazy, but
Yeah, it is. Well, currently we're working on a somewhat of a holiday show called Story Lane. We actually did our first Story Lane back in July.
Yeah, kind of in the midst of all the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Craziness. Weird time to do a show, but we started these outdoor traveling shows that go from one front yard to the other. And
Cool.
we have a tour guide that leads the group and kind of explains a little bit about the piece before the audience travels to the next location. And it was really sweet. My neighbor was the tour guide and she played her guitar and led people down the dirt road.
Aww.
So we're preparing for a Christmas show or holiday show. We might be changing things up. We may just be in one location. We might go to different locations. We're still figuring it out. But we'll be presenting one piece about snow from that one woman I was talking about.
Yeah.
And hoping to expand on my mom's dance. And a part of her story just has to do with the gifts that came through her journey with cancer. So that's kind of the focus of the show. It's called The Gift, and we're hoping to just portray kind of the beautiful side of such a tragic journey. I know it's always a hard one, but there are a lot of sweet things that I think come through people's lives. That was at least my mom's experience. Just a journey of thankfulness in the midst of a trial.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, we're working on that, and those have been our big projects this year.
Yeah.
Is Story Lane, and we bring project dancers in and rehearse throughout the weekend and then perform on Sunday, and that's it. Just a short-term thing. We have weekly rehearsals with a small core group right now, and that's been really sweet just to have that time every week to rehearse with my dancers. And
kind of tying back into that community element.
Yes, that has been so good this year to have a small community of dancers to lean on. So I'm really thankful for them.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing. And I'm so excited for all that's to come and everything that you guys have already presented, and just really grateful for your heart for sharing stories and for really connecting with people, and keep doing what you're doing because it's really amazing and so beautiful. Excited to see what comes of it.
Thanks, Rach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was curious, I'd like to ask, is there something that's on your heart that you would want to share with other artists that are listening right now?
I feel like there's a lot of things.
I know it's hard to like narrow down sometimes.
Can I say two?
Yeah, totally.
One thing is in line with Mako and just the heart of what we do. Again, going back to listening, I think that so much of art is about saying what we want to say as artists. And I think there's a lot of value in just listening to the people around you and the environment around you. And so I would just encourage my fellow artists to listen to people. And it really is special to honor someone through dance. And that's a huge part of our heart, is just to honor people. We say we exist to listen. So I would just encourage my fellow artists to listen and to honor people through their gift. I don't think we realize that we can really offer this as a gift to people, and telling their story is so sweet. And even just as a Christmas gift to someone, like choreograph a dance about your grandpa's life and choreograph a dance about your family's favorite dog that just passed away, or choreograph a dance about your new niece or nephew that was born. And I think that that is an amazing gift that we can give to our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I never think to do that. Like, we do this on a bigger scale for people who've endured cancer that I'm just meeting for the first time, but it makes me want to choreograph a dance for Zuli, or choreograph a
Yeah.
dance for my husband, or, you know, so I just encourage people to offer their gift as a gift
Mm-hmm.
to specific people that you know and that you love.
That brings so much meaning and depth to it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is just a more recent thought with, I think, just the current events, COVID. And I know that dancers don't really have a stage these days. We don't really have an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are getting really creative, which is awesome. But I have been studying Genesis this year and really blown away by the creation story,
Yeah.
and how God he just had a blast creating, and everything he did, he said, this is good. And then he
Mm-hmm.
created us and said that we're made in his image. And so we are creative beings. And I've just been so encouraged to create, even in the absence of a space to perform what we create. And thankfully, we've had plenty of performance opportunities, which is awesome, all outdoors. So it's been really fun. But even if we didn't, I feel like God's given me so much purpose in just the act of creating, because in the act of creating, I get to be like him. So
Mm-hmm.
I would just encourage my fellow artists to not stop creating, because you get to do God's work just by creating. And that in and of itself, with no performance, no production, is a holy and beautiful task worth
Mm-hmm.
doing.
That's so good. Love that so much. So, what is one of your favorite things right now?
Well, I mean, my favorite thing ever is Zuli,
She's so cute.
but you'd
Yes.
have to come over and hang out with her. The other thing is the nursing pads I use
Oh, yeah.
are the best,
Nice.
but I'm sure that's not what you're looking for either.
You never know. We probably have some moms listening that might like to use it.
If anyone wants to know, I can send an Amazon link.
Perfect.
Okay, let me think of something better. I don't know, Rach. That's a good question.
Thanks. No worries. I mean,
Sorry.
Zuli's a great answer, so it's all
Zuli
good.
is the best thing ever. She's so funny. So
That's
I
awesome.
think I'll go with Zuli. She's my
Perfect.
favorite thing.
That's great. I love it so much. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you and kind of connect in either with you personally or with Mako, what's the best way to do that?
They can check out our website at mako.dance. Email us at people@mako.dance, or check out our Facebook or Instagram. Our Facebook is just Mako Dance, and our Instagram is at mako.dance.
Awesome. And I can link to those in the show notes too, so people can find you. And yeah,
Thanks.
just so thankful for you and really excited to see what's to come. And hope you guys have an awesome holiday season with Zuli and with family. It's going to be so fun.
Thanks.
I love
Thanks,
you, friend.
Rach. Love you.
I hope you enjoyed the first conversation in our Family Christmas series. You can find links from the show and the full show notes on our website. Are you interested in supporting the show and getting extra content? Check out our Patreon community. You can learn more at creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. That's creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. Next week on the show, my Aunt Cian Smith joins me for part 2 of our Family Christmas series. She shares how her passion for dance was rekindled after a long career in the retail world, and she became a certified Zumba instructor at the age of 60. You guys are going to be so inspired by her story. Thank you so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Share the show with a friend, check out our Patreon community, and I'll see you next week for my conversation with Cian Smith.